My journey and comeback from cancer. On December 25th, 2012, I arose early to watch my then 3-year-old grandson and my daughter rip the wrapping paper to reveal their gifts. Scheduled for an outpatient procedure the next day, I prepared the usual favorite feast, but I had to finish eating by 3 p.m. to prepare for surgery. 2 months prior, on my daughter's birthday, an excruciating pain in the upper quadrant of my abdomen woke me from a sound sleep around 2 a.m. in the morning. Convinced that I was having a heart attack and not wanting to waste time, I drove approximately 3 miles to the emergency room without awakening my daughter or grandson. After arriving at the emergency room, I quickly learned the phrase that "I think I'm having a heart attack" would gain quick access to a physician who would diagnose my condition as gallbladder disease. I felt relieved considering one can live without a gallbladder, and one of the reasons I would choose to have the surgery the day after Christmas would be to recover and to return to work in time to cover for my colleague who was expected to go out on maternity leave in January. Also, financially, it made perfect sense to have the surgery before the end of the year to avoid paying another $1,500 deductible so soon after finally meeting it in 2012. After arriving at the hospital early the next day, I learned that my surgeon had to perform an emergency surgery on another patient, which caused my procedure to be delayed for 5 hours. Even though my daughter became a little agitated and my brother had to leave before the procedure began, I felt calm despite the delay. I have worked in the healthcare industry for more than 20 years, so I understand the protocols. An emergency usually denotes a life or death situation. So emergency procedures should take priority over elective ones. My procedure would be the last one on that day, and as promised, it would not take long. However, I did not expect to wake up to the words, "Ms. Manning, I found a tumor, and I'm very concerned." 1 week later, after receiving the pathology results, my surgeon confirmed that the tumor was malignant, but he saw no evidence of metastases. Overwhelmed with mixed emotions, I felt thankful that the cancer had not spread, but fearful after learning that gallbladder cancer has no known cure or effective course of treatment. Besides being rare, gallbladder cancer has a high rate of reoccurrence. Nearly 6 months after agreeing to receive chemotherapy treatments as a preventive measure, an MRI revealed a lymph node that appeared suspicious. I never imagined that it would get any worse until my oncologist spoke the words, "Surgery would be too risky because it's too close to the aorta." For the first time since the initial diagnosis, I felt hopelessly defeated. With tears streaming down my cheeks, I managed to drive home. Unable to sleep that night, I prayed for God's guidance. After praying, I turned on the television in search of a spiritual program, but instead, I watched a commercial about the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Immediately after watching it, I dialed the number and spoke with the patient advocate who demonstrated a genuine concern, calmed my fears, and scheduled me for a second opinion. The Cancer Treatment Centers of America treated me with dignity rather than a statistic. Inspired by the way the Cancer Treatment Centers of America uses traditional and non-traditional medicine, I wanted them to handle my case, so they agreed. Besides oncologists, the interdisciplinary teams include naturopaths, nutritionists, massage therapists, mind and body consultants, acupuncturists, and chaplains. And I took full advantage of most of these services, especially the massages. The naturopaths and the nutritionists taught me the importance of making lifestyle changes and the overall impact on the treatment and prevention of cancer. Spiritual gatherings and discussions, including prayers led by the chaplains and/or ministers, encouraged and provided me with a sense of hope. Often, upon receiving a cancer diagnosis, some people tend to ask, why did this happen to me? Instead, I wanted to ask, why did I get a rare cancer? At that moment, however, I believe God replaced that thought with, why not me? Despite the circumstances, that simple but humbling phrase redirected my focus towards a journey cushioned with perseverance and purpose. Adversity comes in many forms, including cancer. However, if given a choice, very few people would choose to experience cancer. Although I could not change the diagnosis, I could choose to reach above and beyond my comfort level through perseverance and by continuing to live the life granted by our Almighty Father. Unmarried and the sole breadwinner in the household, I had to maintain an income, so I continued working throughout the entire ordeal. Always equipped with a laptop and cell phone, I traveled with a portable office and literally worked while receiving chemotherapy treatments through the surgically implanted port. Treatments often began early and ended late, so I had plenty of time to complete a day's work. Being able to work throughout treatment enabled me to maintain health insurance, meet financial obligations, and eliminate some of the factors that cause stress. In addition, over the past several years, I had every intention of returning to school to complete my education. However, the workload and travel associated with my career caused it to be delayed. Finally, the time was right, so I enrolled into a master's program but had only completed 2 quarters prior to being diagnosed. A friend suggested that I postpone treatment until the end of the treatments, that I postpone classes until the end of treatments, and I almost did. But I just could not quit after waiting so long to begin. Perseverance took on a new meaning for me as I continued to reach far beyond my usual abilities to keep everything going in the right direction. It kept the focus off of self and created normalcy in a situation that might have otherwise been chaotic. Working, taking classes, both online and in a classroom setting, along with weekly chemotherapy treatments, then eventually radiation treatments, became a daily routine. The following day, after my last procedure, my surgeon came into the room and he wanted to know why I was sitting in a chair typing on my laptop the day after a major surgery. I explained that I had an 18-page final paper due that next week, so I wanted to meet the deadline, which had already been extended due to the surgery. He shook his head in amazement and said, "You must have a lot of faith in me." Without a doubt, he is a great surgeon, but I had placed my faith in the one and only Almighty God. During and after cancer, my life's purpose became apparent due to those things I experienced on the journey, and they led me to my second act. Conscientiously grateful for each day, I live in the present without looking back at yesterday or fast-forwarding into the future. Besides several friends who survived various forms of cancer, I encountered many others who encouraged and inspired me along the way. Upon hearing their stories, I could hardly believe that the meetings occurred by chance. Everyone I met related a miraculous story of how she survived cancer, which made me believe that I would also survive. And as a result, I knew that I too would need to share my story with others. Every day when I pray, I asked God to send someone to me who might benefit from hearing my story. And God never fails to answer that prayer. In addition to my career, I work as a volunteer speaking with patients currently receiving or about to receive treatment. While sharing our stories, we also express ourselves through art and watercolor painting. Although it took 3 years, I completed an MBA in Health Services Administration last year. And by the way, the commercial that inspired me to seek a second opinion featured a world-renowned surgeon. A couple of months after having the surgery, I saw the commercial again. At that moment, I recognized him as the great surgeon who had actually performed my procedure. He successfully removed the lymph node that tested positive for cancer, and I have remained cancer-free. Thank you.